Thank you.
All right, all right.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting at your Newark City Council to order, 7 o'clock on February the 6th, 2023. Janine, please call the roll.
Ms. Hattiger? Here. Mr. Hauser?
Here.
Mr. Labutus?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Present.
Mr. Marmy?
Present.
Mr. Rath?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Ms. Blind? Here. Mr. Harris?
Here. We have 10 here present this evening. Next, if you please stand for the invocation and remain standing. Mr. Harris.
Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you for allowing us to wake up and live another day. We ask you, Lord, to help us as we conduct business. Help us to make the right decisions and do what's right. We ask you, Lord, as we leave here to watch over, protect us from harm and danger. We ask you all these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance by Samaya Thompson, a fourth grader at Johnny Clem Elementary. She's going to come up and get us started. Whenever you're ready, young lady.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next, we have caucus. That's the time for council to discuss anything pertaining to the agenda tonight. Do we have anything?
Mr. President.
Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be abstaining from 2301, resolution 2301.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, next we have the minutes of our January 17th, 2023 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those? Motion by Mr. Labutus, second by Mr. Barker. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. We have one appointment this evening by Mayor Hall, reappointing Carol Wachtel to the Combined General Health District Board. Her new term begins March 1st, 2023, and will expire February 28th, 2028. I can never say that word. With terms will be 5 years. Mayor?
Yes, she's it's a reappointment, so she's done a great job, enjoys doing it, and we appreciate her service. So I would ask that you approve her reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. We have 4 reports this evening from standing committees, one from finance, one from service, one from capital improvements, and one from personnel. Without objection, those will be received and filed. No reports this evening from city officials. We have about 5 communications this evening, one from Park National Bank, one from Columbia Gas, one from Tim Schaefer, our state senator, one from Mrs. Felt, the development director of St. Vincent Haven, one from the Ohio EPA, one from the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and one from the Ohio Division of Liquor. Without objection, those will be received and filed. Next, we have a public hearing this evening. We're going to go ahead and open this public hearing. Janine, would you please read that?
Resolution number 23-11, resolution approving the renewal application for placement of farmland in an agricultural district and declaring an emergency.
Do we have anyone here that would like to speak for or against this public hearing? Again, anyone for or against? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Janine, just read 23-11 for our second reading and then we'll vote.
Resolution number 23-11 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Marmy, a resolution approving the renewal application for placement of farmland in an agricultural district and declaring an emergency.
You heard reading of 23-11. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath.
I make a motion to adopt 23-11.
Motion by Mr. Rath,
Second.
second by Mr. Barker. Is there any discussion on 23-11? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll to vote.
Ms. Hattiger? Yes. Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
23-11 passes 10-0. Next, we have comments from citizens. That's the time for you to be heard. This is not a debate with council or a question and answer period. This is just a time for you to give us your opinion. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and I will call you up in some kind of an order If you're here to speak about the gaming commission legislation, which is going to be next, now's the time to speak because you won't be able to speak then. So, Mrs. Smith, you want to start?
It's Rochelle Bowman Smith, 237 Wood. Emphasis on the Bowman part. So anyway. I'm gonna have two speeches this tonight, one in the first section and one in the second. I would like to take a moment to remember Reverend Doug Grace. He was aptly named because he was full of grace, gentle, kind, brave, helping, and standing up for the underrepresented. Reverend Grace was taken from us much too soon, who recently passed on. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak this section again? Sir, come on up. Just give us your name and address for the record. Anyone else like to speak? Put your hand up so I can get you in some kind of order.
Thank you. My name is Evan Price. I'm an attorney. My address is P.O. Box 204,
Just
20244, Columbus, Ohio, 13220. And I'm going to make this brief because I believe most of you were present for the safety committee meeting, and I don't want to recover that ground. But I did want to speak to this notion that, you know, we can't have businesses operating illegally in the city of Newark. And in particular, I would point out that anyone operating a game room is not committing a crime at this point. There's no prohibition in Ohio criminal law that says if you are operating a game room without a license, you can go to jail. It's a felony, it's a misdemeanor, it's a civil matter. So I wanted to note that first of all. Second of all, as we've heard, the state has taken a hands-off approach when it's regulated by the cities. And I would note that that's the same approach the federal government has taken towards medical marijuana that's been authorized by the states. It's still illegal under federal law. As a matter of fact, it's a federal felony. Every time they open up, there are multiple felonies happening because in order to dispense a drug in the United States, you need an FDA pharmaceutical license. And CVS has one, Walgreens has one. They're not selling marijuana because their FDA pharmaceutical licenses would immediately be revoked if they did. And in addition, even if you have a federal pharmaceutical license, you can only dispense drugs that are approved as safe and effective by the FDA following clinical trials. Marijuana has not been approved by the FDA. It hasn't been through many clinical trials. Most of them are observational. Yet today, marijuana, which is far more powerful than it used to be, is being prescribed for morning sickness for women who are pregnant. There haven't been any studies that show that it's safe for fetuses, but that it's being prescribed that way. Observational studies show that it contributes to low birth weight, NICU admissions, lower head circumference, and as they grow older, and these are studies from back in the 90s, it leads to increased risk of schizophrenia. But like I said, if you want to talk about criminal activity happening in the city of Newark, that's it. That's illegal under federal law. Accepting the money is accepting the proceeds of an illegal drug transaction. And I presume that the city of Newark has provided some licenses of some type to those businesses that are currently operating. I would urge the city to take the same approach towards regulating skill game rooms as the United States, the federal government has taken towards regulating medical marijuana. They chose to leave it to the states. And here, I think the city council should be the one to regulate the skill game rooms here in Newark. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to move on to ordinances on the second reading, 23-01.
Ordinance number 23-01 by Mr. Labutus, Ms. Blind, Mr. Rath, Mr. Marmy. An ordinance amending portions of chapter 830 of the codified ordinances of the city of Newark, Ohio regarding licensing requirements for electronic gaming parlors operated within the city of Newark, Ohio.
You've heard the second reading of 23-01. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Labutus,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-01.
motion to adopt by Mr. Labutus,
Third.
second by Mr. Rath. Is there any discussion on 23-01?
Mr. President.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes, I would like to amend 2301 and everybody's packet is 2301A. What this amendment does is it gives businesses within our community some time and the opportunity to come into compliance with the law. It's amending it to 90 days from the date of enforcement date of the legislation to at least have submitted application for a license and start the application process. Also, it states that if there's anybody non-compliant with state licensing regulations, then they could be in violation of our law. I offer this amendment because we want to give any facility that wants to operate within the law the opportunity to operate within our city boundaries. And this will give them the chance to change if there is anything that they're not currently in compliance with. And it gives them time to plan also for that.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. You've heard the amendment on 23-01A. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lang. Any discussion on the amendment for 23-01? Mrs. Sonnier?
I just want to say I'm glad to see this proposed amendment, just because I'm not opposed to gaming places. I think it's fine, or businesses. I'm a pro-business person. But I certainly want them to be regulated like every other business, but just to not give them time to be able to do that, I don't think is right. So I'm in favor of this, and I thank you for proposing.
Is there anybody else on the amendment? Mr. Parker?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to clarify, earlier in caucus, I had said I would be abstaining from resolution 2301. It actually is abstaining from this ordinance 2301, soon to be essentially A. Yes,
Well, yeah, you were standing for 23-01, but that's what it was at the time.
yes, so I wanted.
I got it like that. Mr. Lang?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So just to clarify procedurally, if we pass this amendment and then subsequently pass 2301 tonight, the enforcement date would be 30 days from today. Is that how that? Correct. Yeah. Okay, so this would be adding another night. So they essentially have 120 days to get that application back.
So it'd be actually 120 days total to start a license.
Just to file, yeah.
Any other comments on the amendment? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Ms. Hattiger,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser,
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yeah.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Abstain.
Ms. Blind. Yes. Mr. Harris.
Yes.
2301 has been amended to 2301A. Now, is there any discussion on 2301A? Paul, Director, would you like to add anything?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, President.
Okay, seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Martin.
I will just make a couple of comments. And Mrs. Huntinger kind of alluded to it. I think that everybody up here is pro-business. But I also, we have to respect our law director in the fact that our law director has indicated that we have not been in compliance with the law, or we can be found not in non-compliance with the law moving forward. Anytime that we found that there's any kind of an issue like that, we need to take action upon it. Now, we can do it in a fair manner, and that's what I think we're attempting to do here, is to be fair and to be upfront and to make sure that we're working with businesses. And we just demonstrate the fact that we do want businesses in our community. But we cannot condone things that the state is not going to allow. And I know that the attorney indicated about the federal law. Well, state law and local law is a lot different when it comes to the rules and the ruling. we can enhance state law at the local level. We can make it stricter and we can do other things, but we cannot override state law within the state of Ohio. So there is a difference there with state jurisdiction over federal and also local over state. And I just
Not
wanted to
now.
indicate that, so, and thank you.
Okay, not now. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Moore.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Anyone else? Did any please call the roll vote?
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes,
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
yes,
Mr. Barker?
Abstain.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
23-01 as amended passes 9-0 with one abstention. There are no ordinances on the first reading this evening. Resolutions on the second reading, 23-01. We'll give you a minute if that's all you were here for. We can go ahead and let you clear out. Well, you can stay. We'll be more than happy to have you stay. Okay.
Resolution number 23-01 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, and Ms. Blind. Project consisting of constructing a contained roundabout intersecting Norwood Crossing, Norwood Drive, River Road, and Reddington Road, including roadway realignment, driveways, guardrail fence, drainage, water main work, lighting, signage, pavement markings, traffic signals, landscaping, building demolition, and structure lying within the city of Newark.
Heard the second reading of 23-01. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
But we can't hear. It's much too loud out there and your voice is off.
All right, hang on a second.
Thank you.
We'll get them moved along here.
Okay. Minutes are important.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
make the motion to adopt 23-01.
would you like us to read that again, or did you see that? What's your-
Resolution number 23-01 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, and Ms. Blind. The project consisting of constructing a two-lane roundabout intersecting Thornwood Crossing, Thornwood Drive, River Road, and Reddington Road, including roadway realignment, driveways, guardrail fence, drainage, water main work, lighting, signage, pavement markings, traffic signals, landscaping, building demolition, and a structure lying within the city of Newark.
You've heard the second reading of 23-01. What is your wish?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 23-01.
There, second by Mr. Parker. Is there any discussion on 23-01?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath?
I just want to say personally, I'm very excited about this resolution. We talked about doing this for a very, very long time. And it's great to see it coming in, getting into motion.
Thank you, Mr. Rath. Anybody else? Jenny, please call the roll vote.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
yes,
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
23-01 passes 10-0. Next on a second reading, we go to 23-02.
Resolution number 23-02 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Harris. Resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and enter into contract for certain essential supplies for various departments of the city of Newark, Ohio for 2023.
You heard the second reading of 23-02. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Wow.
Okay. Mr. Rath. All right, so we'll go with Mr. Marmy in a second.
I'm sorry. Make a motion to adopt.
Motion adopted by Mr. Rath,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Marmy. Is there any discussion on 23-02?
Mine's pink.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll to vote. We've certainly lost our.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
23-02 passes 10-0. Okay. Next, we have 23-03.
Resolution number 23-03 expedite by Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Barker, Mr. Blind, Ms. Blind, Mr. Harris, Mr. Hauser, and Mr. Rath. Resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
For second reading of 23-02, what is your wish?
Mr. President,
Ms. Hodges.
Ask that we adopt resolution 2303 expedited.
Motion to adopt 23-03 by Mrs. Hattinger, second by Mr. Hauser. Is there any discussion on 23-03? It's fine.
Did you have it? Okay. Yes, sir. I'm grateful for the opportunity to start some momentum and getting some of these alleys, which I know in a couple of our wards are technically streets. And so I'm excited to see some forward progress on it. And I'm grateful to Mr. Howard for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to be able to support this as worded because of the word paving in there. I would be in support of the funds going towards alleys. The reason why I've talked to the administration between the mayor and the service director, both. They don't, the service department and the engineering department do not have the capacity to have a separate paving program, nor do they have the time and the means to incorporate any type of alley paving necessarily. They can do certain areas at times from what I understand, and the fear is that this money will be put in there earmarked for paving for alleys, and then they won't be able to get to it, and therefore we'll have funds in there that we could have utilized to maintain alleyways, or even the service director has found another method that is outside of paving that he would like to experiment with, and to see if it would be just as good as, not just as good, but be sufficient for alleyways. There was another one that Leighton Excavating, they have another method that could be beneficial also. So I would rather it just say be placed towards alleyways. And you know, I understand that Mr. Hauser does not wish to do that. He wants the words paving, but the funds might be tied up in there and they won't even get utilized, so we won't end up paving. So I can't be in support of the way that it's worded.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy, or maybe the word alley repairs, Mr. Hauser.
I'll make a comment. I think that in typically speaking, dollars allocated to alleyways in the city of Newark has been toward patching and a variety of different other methods at this point. And I think the purpose of including word paving is to change that practice, and that's the purpose of it. So that's all I'll add. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
No.
Mr. Marmy?
No.
Mr. Rath?
No,
Mr. Ryan?
No.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes,
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
6-4. Oh, I don't get a vote. 22-03 passes 6-4. Next, we go on to resolutions on the first reading, 23-04.
Resolution number 23-04 expedite by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
I make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 23-04.
Motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Mr. Marmy.
Yes, these are projects that need the funding immediately, so they have to be expedited.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Janine, please call the roll to waive the 2-day reading rule.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
yes,
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
yes,
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
2-day reading rule is waived. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt resolution 23-04.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy,
Second.
second by Mr. Lang. Is there any other discussion on 23-04? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
yes,
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
yes,
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
23-04 passes 10-0. Next on the first reading, we have 23-05.
Resolution number 23-05 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
23-05 is on the first reading, and it will be held at our next meeting on February 21st. Next 23-06 06.
Resolution number 23-06 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, and Mr. Rath. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to apply for funding from the United States Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance under the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant Program.
23-06 is on its first reading and it will be held to our next meeting on the 21st. Next on the first reading, we have 23-07.
Resolution number 23-07 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. Resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the Department of Homeland Security for fiscal year 2022 Fire Act grant programs in support of training programs, equipment purchases, funding for personnel, fire prevention, and fire safety programs throughout the city.
And 23-07 will be held for 2 weeks and a day to our next meeting on the 21st. Also on the first reading is 23-08.
Resolution number 23-08 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. Resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Public Safety for an award of fiscal year 2023-2024 funding under the Ohio EMS Training and Equipment Grant Program.
23-08 on its first reading. It will be held for until our next meeting on the 21st. And 2 more, 23-09.
Resolution number 23-09 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Marmy. A project consisting of replacing bridge number LIC CR 804-0173 SFN 456-0078 located on West Church Street, CR 804 and over Raccoon Creek, including approach work, resurfacing, curb, sidewalk, curb ramp, storm sewer locations, pavement markings lying within the city of Newark.
I have that marked as an emergency.
And it's
correct?
declaring an emergency.
For the first reading of 23-09, it is an emergency, so what is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
I'd like to make a motion to pass or adopt 23-09.
motion to adopt by Mr. Rath.
Second.
Second by Mr. Labutus. Any discussion on 23-09? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang? Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes,
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
23-09 passes 10-0. And finally, tonight, we have 23-10.
Resolution number 23-10 by Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Marmy, and Mr. Rath, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
And 23-10 is on its first reading, so it will be held to our next meeting on the 21st. And that concludes the legislation tonight, so thanks for your attention. Okay, next on the agenda, we have your second opportunity for comments from citizens. Again, this is not a debate with council, but this is your opportunity to be heard. Please raise your hand. We'll bring you up in order. We'll start right over here.
Oh,
We're going to start with you if you'd like to speak.
okay. I'm correcting myself. Thank you on 2 more points to make. Well, or probably more. Anyway, on the subject of alleyways. It occurred to me that when we look at down some of the alleys in our city, there's, I think a problem in the way that we're doing it. I don't think we're thinking environmentally. I've seen some situations in some other cities and counties where water is allowed to leach into the ground in a responsible manner, either through gravel or there's newer, better ways, actually. What is happening here is very often we pave our alleyways and then we block the grates that allow the water to go into the land, which causes problems in people's basements and causes a lot of flooding around the areas. So I think we really need to look at some other plans to see a better way of doing this that might even be more cost effective. Then also on the topic of fentanyl strips, I think we're being very, very short-sighted on this. Fentanyl strips save lives. They do not take them. They are preventative to prevent deaths. It does not promote taking fentanyl. It does not promote taking any other drug. It virtually saves lives. Our city attracts growth, not because we are, of our city's strengths. It is actually because of the deficit. We have too much poverty. We don't have enough opportunities for jobs, for various people. We don't have enough housing. So people turn to drugs. And this is happening in Florida, it is happening in Akron, it's a big problem in West Virginia, it is a problem all over the country. I think we would have worked on saving lives. I have met a lot of homeless people, and they have a lot to offer. And I think we need to give them a chance. You are killing them. And I will rest. At the same time, I would also like to add that we have too many liquor licenses in the cities, especially around our poorer areas. They're terribly concentrated. When I was living in another community within the city, there were people that would get incredibly drunk, and their kids would come to our house for safety. Their wives would come to our house for safety. People were shot at. The police would not necessarily come. This is a big problem. I consider it a gateway drug. You don't think it's necessary to have fentanyl strips to decide whether someone's poisoning themselves or not? Look at the problem you're creating with having so much alcohol. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Mazel.
Linda Mossholder, 224 Green Meadow Drive, Newark, Ohio. I'm just going to give a brief update. We did have a warming center on Friday. We served 17 people, no dogs, cats, but 17 people were able to get out at freezing temperatures. We are very grateful for the support of the Liberty Memorial Hospital. They provided transportation, and they also provided food for that night. The warming centers are completely volunteer driven. If we don't have enough volunteers, we cannot open. We're very grateful to the community who recognizes the need that people who do not have a place to stay when the temperatures reach 10 degrees or below, have a place to go. We've had volunteers from all sectors, from churches, a former principal in the Granville school districts. We have volunteers from harm reduction places. So we were able to open. Just on the side of the dogs, because I know our law director is, we are going through anywhere from 25 to 30 pounds of dog food at the outreach. We do pass out dog food. We see, I think there were 6 dogs, and we also give them cat food. One of the things that we found that we need to have on supply is leashes and dog collars, because we want to make sure the dogs stay safe. I am not going to spend much time talking a little bit about my disappointment in the fentanyl testing strips proposal not going forward. I guess I'm not sure the procedure on how you go about doing that. One of the things that the One Ohio committee put in their uses for settlement funds is harm reduction. Fentanyl testing strips are harm reduction, and that's a thing that is said by the Center for Disease Control. A strip costs about $1 a piece. We try to give out, we are planning on giving out, I'll go ahead and say, we are giving out approximately 40 strips a week at the homeless outreach. We have to get rid of the misconception that the only people who want these strips is because they're going to take fentanyl. They're using these strips to see if there is fentanyl in the drugs that they may be taking. Should they try to get into recovery? Absolutely, but a dead person cannot get into recovery. In 2020, there was a 30% increase in overdose deaths in Licking County. and an 84.2% increase in fentanyl related drugs. So these are necessarily life-saving tools. The request I put in is for $3,000. I don't think that's a huge amount of money to try and save lives. I will send a copy of my proposal to all of the council members. And if somebody could please clarify for me how the best way to go about making proposals for use of Ohio settlement monies in the city of Newark, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as a note, is it church on 30th Street where they had the warming center? Is it
No, we have one church. It's Trinity Lutheran Church on West Main.
just that one on 30th? Close?
The Disciple Factory is closed. That building is currently up for sale.
That's what I thought. Thank you. Mr. Cropper. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Smith, you want to go next?
I'll be very quick. Daniel Crawford, 163 South Second Street. Last time I was here, it was clarified to me that we don't have archives anymore for meeting minutes, and because I have a one-track mind sometimes, I didn't think to comment on that. I'm someone, obviously, I've mentioned numerous times, who believes that transparency is essential for democracy, and I think there's some way we can try and restore the archives, or at least make sure that the people of North know how you can get access to old minutes. I'm sure you can do like a public record request, but something like that on the website, I think could help, because it was mentioned earlier, that the minutes are important, and these decisions that we see are important, because, you know, knowing what our laws are one thing, but knowing the discussions behind those laws, I think is the crucial part of it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, what in our clerk does a great job on this. So give yourself a hand.
She does.
She does.
She does.
Mr. Smith.
Stephen Smith, 237 Violet Court, Newark, Ohio. I would like to, first of all, second Daniel's comment about the minutes and the archives minutes available, should be easily available on the website. They were previously, I think that should happen again. Need to be very careful that the printed minutes are accurate with the video minutes. I've encountered a few problems with that one or two times. The other comment I want to make just a request for information, basically, is if there's a status update on the temporary replacement bridge on Cherry Valley. So aside from being a personal inconvenience for myself, which is a very minor issue, I can get by. It's a safety issue in terms of EMS access to the hospital for certain areas. I think I have seen some work being done in that area. I'm not sure exactly what the status is. I would be very interested in knowing how that's progressing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe the mayor has an update when we get to him. We'll see. Anyone else? Any city officials this evening? Okay. Law Director Moore, you're on. Oh, no, that.
Yeah, Mr. Smith, the bridge is made. It's made down in Cambridge. It was being galvanized about a week and a half ago, maybe. Our engineer did go down to see its progress a couple weeks ago. And it's 159 feet long. It'll be then taken apart in sections and brought up here. There are foundations that were built at that 159 span piece. It's metric, so that's why it's 159 feet. And those had to get, they did borings into the ground out there. They had to, of course, engineer them. Usually we passed some legislation tonight for bridges and different things, and there's a lot of months in engineering on those things. This is pretty quick and doing very well. They will then bring the bridge up, they'll build the foundations, then they'll put the bridge across that, build it across the foundations. Then they have to build ramps and bring in quite a bit of fill to bring those ramps in, so each approaches on each of the sides. And then the top will be covered with asphalt. So probably as of we stand today, the best time is going to be probably about April, the beginning of April, maybe the middle, when the asphalt plants open. There are no asphalt plants open prior to that. And so that's the latest update, but again, that's pretty quick for when they started the whole process. So sure. With that, I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Hollier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Where to start? I'm trying to be positive, which is really hard for me right now. Because I'm very offended that you said we're killing the homeless. There are a lot of people up here and in the audience that work very hard to take care of the homeless. We try to do things we can. We support them financially. We have a ribbon cutting coming up on March 10th at 11 a.m. For the St. Vincent Haven, the new men's unit that we're doubling that for the homeless for the men. I'm very proud of that. I hope that all of you can come. If you can, you should have gotten an invitation, but killing them, not necessary and rude and offensive. So, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Ottinger. Mr. Hauser.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I like to agree with Sherry's comments there. I mean, just because we're not funding the purchase of fentanyl testing strip in this case, the fentanyl testing strip are used to test the strength of illegal drugs. I mean, that's the bottom line in this circumstance to me. So to argue that we're killing people by not allowing them to use a device to test an illegal drug that's a massive stretch in my opinion. But we'll do that as it is. I just want to thank you everyone for people who voted in favor of paving of the alleys. I appreciate that. So that'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Mr. Labutus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say I was happy with that the 2301A passed this evening. As we mentioned earlier, I think all of us up here are for business, but we want the businesses to run legally at all levels of law. So I'm glad that passed this evening, and I was happy to support it. That I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Labutus. Mr. Lyon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will pass. Thanks.
I'm sorry. He passed. I will pass.
I will pass tonight.
Nice haircut.
I should add, congratulations on a really simple meeting.
Okay. Well,
You should have accepted.
there's always a meeting in 2 weeks, Mr. Lyon. You get to speak again. Mr. Marmon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to call a finance committee meeting for the 21st of February. I'm just going to reiterate and also explain the process is if you want council to do anything as far as the fentanyl strips, that would take legislation on our part. I'm not willing to bring forth legislation is what I indicated. And if you can get somebody to bring forth legislation, yes, it would come through finance, and I'm not going to deny that. But you would have to find somebody to bring that legislation through and someone to sponsor it out of these council members up here. So that's the process, and that's our legislative process. I'm going to agree with some of the other comments. I just do not, I cannot support something that if they test for a drug, then the very next step of what they're doing, we have to arrest them possibly. I can't support those actions and that activity. And Mrs. Boland-Smith, you can shake your head all you want out there. I am not killing the homeless, and I am not going to promote anything that promotes the use of fentanyl or any other drugs in this capacity that I know create unfunctionable individuals within our community. There are some drugs like alcohol that within moderation, folks are, for you to associate the alcohol in all capacities are bad. There are folks that drink responsibly. There are folks that do not drink responsibly, but there are consequences to their actions also. And but as far as legality, the drugs that you're talking about, they are illegal. And I just can't support the use of fentanyl strips and the use of funds up here of our funds towards that. I think the Narcan is a good use and what we've done so far. And I support the mayor in that decision when that occurred. And I'm sure we'll have other uses if there's additional funds available. But that'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Marmon. Mr. Rath.
Thank you. I'll start out with something positive. Once again, I am incredibly excited about resolution 23-01. getting that roundabout, getting the Norwood interchange connected, getting that process moving, that's awesome. One correction, Mr. Hauser. I will say, you said fentanyl strips were used to test the strength of fentanyl. And that's actually not accurate. Please stop. Please stop. That's actually not accurate. Fentanyl strips are used to test the presence of fentanyl in other drugs that are illegal, which we aren't going to support. You're entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. I'm 60+ years old, and I can tell you, I'll swear in stack Bibles, that I am not responsible for the death of any individual in those 60+ years. You're entitled to your own opinions, but for you to stand up there and say that as a fact, state it as a fact, you are not allowed to do that. You can stop. I don't want to hear it. Can you shut her up, please?
I said no. You want me to? Yeah.
You cannot stand up there and state that as a fact. That is rude.
No, that's enough.
Stop. And in doing so, you've lost all credibility. Thank you, I'll pass.
Mr. Ryan,
I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two things. I'm gonna stay positive here because the rest of it will not go well if I keep going. Want to thank everybody who attended the Groundhog Breakfast. I know the mayor, you had 2 tables there. I'm on that committee that puts that together, and we had a great group at Cherry Valley Hotel early in the morning. Great speaker. So thank you, everybody who attended that. And actually with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Ms. Blunt.
Hey, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank our wonderful police department. They've been very on time and coming to needed assistance when residents have made some very difficult calls as of late. So I'm very grateful for them. And I'd also like to thank local businesses, Mr. Romine on South William, Armstrong's downtown, and some others who are really making a stand for doing what's right. And, you know, they are giving out of their pockets again to secure their areas, to do the right thing, to be law abiding. And as I was petitioning mound builders yet again to secure their park, you know, with gates and lights because of the activities that's going on at night, you know, these calls that, you know, these misses expect 183 calls for service. Really? And then mound builders again, you know, please come protect our parks when you're not willing to do anything to help about it. You know, that we're going to keep meeting. And so, and so I'm very grateful for Mr. Rhodes and Mr. Spring, who gave us some wonderful new light that really abated a large human trafficking situation. I met with the woman who was the responsible person, and she chose to not come off the streets. She chose to continue to support her addiction with her processes, and I will continue to meet with her if she chooses to. But, you know, until then, you know, there are those of us that really care and really work hard to reach out to people. And with that, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Blunt. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to remind everybody that this month is Black History Month. So I did some research. I'd like to share a few things with you. Osborne Dorsey invented the door knob and the door stop in 1878. Alexander Miles, and he invented the elevator in 1867. Lydia Newman invented the hairbrush in 1898. That's something that Mr. Rapp don't need anymore. And then one of my favorite inventions is Frederick Jones in 1949 invented the air conditioner. So, I just thought I'd share that with you, and then with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ma'am, you know ma'am, Mrs. Smith. You know the rules. I don't let people interrupt you when it's going on, so I appreciate it if you do not.
And I feel very insulted.
You know what? You take your mask off. I can't understand a word you just said.
I obviously stated an opinion, and I find your reaction offensive.
Well, you know the rules and you know how it goes here, so please don't interrupt. And I will try not to let anybody interrupt you as I always have.
I don't think that was.
Our next meeting is at 5:45 on February the 21st. Full council at 7 o'clock. Is there a motion adjourned? Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Labutus. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
We're just yelling.